hello, and welcome to another episode of the Unscripted, the official the official Michigan State podcast presented by the Field of 68. I'm your host. Good Lord, Carter. Sorry, you guys are gonna have to excuse me today. I made a Sweet 16 this weekend, so I'd maybe celebrate it just a tad bit too hard this weekend. But I'm here with my co-host Greg Waddell. Greg, how are we doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm happy for you. I'll say that. I'm happy for Spartan Nation. I'm excited for this episode because since the dawn of Unscripted on the Field of 68 network, we have not had Michigan State basketball in a spot where they are having postseason success to the extent that they are this season. I think this will be a very fun episode, a fun listen. And people might expecting me to come in like really, really hating. I don't feel that way whatsoever. Like I am enjoying the way this team is playing basketball right now. Izzo deserves a bunch of credit. We'll get into it, and I'm happy for you, dog.
Okay, but 1 second though, because I'm going to dissect that sentence you just said to me. I don't like how you said since the dawn of the Unscripted podcast.
Shade.
Is this not our second year, Gregory?
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. That genuinely didn't mean to be shade. I just mean
okay.
We haven't had a run, right? Now we have a run.
Yeah, that is true. Sorry,
I think where I'm coming from is like I think a lot of people view the way I analyze Michigan State basketball is like, oh, he's a hater, whereas I view it as like just the timing of since we started talking about Michigan State has been like Michigan State hasn't been that good. Like now Michigan State is that good. So like, let's talk about that shit, man. They're hooping right now.
And before we do talk about it, I'd be remiss if I did not mention for those who expected to tune in to their last episode of the Unscripted, for those who expected Unscripted not to go past the first weekend, keep tuning in, goofball, because we're going to the Sweet 16, and I hope you enjoy it.
I meant to text you. We should have just played that we intentionally didn't record the episode because we knew they'd be in the Sweet 16.
See, that would have been some elite behavior by us, but also would have been a lie because that's not how we operated. We're not liars. We are not. But let's go ahead and jump right into this game. I apologize for those who want us to kind of talk about the USC game. To be honest, it was a game I expected to win. I think we were clearly the better team in that game. And though it did get close, I don't know if that game was ever truly in doubt in my eyes. I don't know. Maybe you could tell me I'm wrong on that, Gregory, but it wasn't a game I was necessarily stressed about. The only thing that struck me as surprising was that, their center, Josh Morgan, who has scored like 6 points in the total of like 7 in his last games, just turned into like a mid-range assassin and finished everything at the rim. But besides that, like the game was never truly in doubt. Drew Peterson actually looked pretty healthy for what he's looked like the past couple of weeks. But Jaden Akins and Tyson Walker had Tremont Ellis in hell the whole game. So it wasn't necessarily a game I thought was in doubt.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
What?
That's brutal. We're not calling him Boogie anymore.
No, you can't put up 6 points in your last game and keep the name Boogie, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
That's brutal. I don't disagree with the premise, but I love Boogie Ellis, man.
I love Boogie Ellis too. I'm just messing around. But the defensive job we did on him was exceptional.
Yeah, I would have been nice if they did the same defensive job on Boogie or on Cam Jones that they did on Boogie.
We'll get there.
Almost felt like that was going to come back to bite them. I guess they had their attention focused on Kolek, though. Like you said, we'll get there. But yeah, I don't think either of us were too worried about USC for Michigan State. It did feel dicey at certain points. Like I think it was a game where through the first 30 minutes, you're kind of stepping back, just like, how come Michigan State has not pulled away yet? And it's, the NCAA tournament's a weird thing because it is one of those spots where like all it takes is one bad run or a few minutes of mistakes and like your season's over. And that can really psychologically, mentally affect teams. Like we've seen teams go down that had no business losing in the last 4 days, Arizona being one of them, where like all of a sudden they're in a tie game with 4 minutes left. And you can see what that did mentally to guys like Courtney Ramey and Kirk Risa, who have lost NCAA tournament games in the past. And like it or not, Michigan State has been in close games with 4 minutes left in AJ Hoggard and Tyson Walker's Michigan State careers that they've lost. So for that to be a tie game, I just couldn't shake the feeling in the moment of like, man, this is weird and it could go south here. Luckily, they had the big run late. Or not luckily, I mean, skillfully, they had the big run late. But yeah, I felt like it was one of those games where the scoreboard didn't clearly demonstrate that Michigan State was the much better team for much of the game. Maybe it did in the end, but other than Michigan State just kind of missed some shots that they normally make, I thought they dominated that game.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of honestly been a theme, and it's great that we are in the Sweet 16 because if you probably presented the question to me like, yeah, we're shooting like 20, I think maybe less than that, like less than 20% from three in these first two games of the tournament, with a lot of those being good open looks, I'd be like, I don't know. That sounds to me like a team that's going home, because during the year, unfortunately, when Michigan State has not been able to hit threes, we haven't really been able to grind out and pull out games. But obviously this one was a different story. We were still able to make enough shots, make enough plays to get it done. Made enough plays, made enough shots in the USC game, and then we are set up for the second round matchup, which we're going to talk about right now, against the Marquette Golden Eagles, winners of the Big East regular season, winners of the Big East tournament, coming into the NCAA tournament, winners of the last 15 of 16 games that they have played. So one of the hottest teams in the country, one of the best players in the country, being Tyler Kolek, considered to be an All-American by many media outlets out there.
Come on.
Saying, hey, it is.
But no, don't perpetuate that. We're not giving him one of the best players in the country. We're not. Doing that.
I mean, a lot of media outlets consider him to be an All-American level player.
Yeah, my media network did. Right, this very network, the Field of 68, voted him a consensus first team All-American. For the record, I got to vote in that. So did you, I believe. And I did not vote him first or second team. I have no idea how he made the first team. My immediate response, I texted people when the teams came out because I had to make the graphic. I said, how did Tyler Kolek make the first team? I don't get it, man. I don't get it. His numbers are fine. Like, he had a good season. Don't get me wrong. Marquette was awesome. But this was very much a Steve Nash NBA MVP award for Tyler Kolek in my mind. Like, he averaged 13 points a game this year. And AJ Hoggard assist numbers, like, good player, efficient player, but you saw what happened when he's thrown into the fire against it. Like, how much have I criticized AJ Hoggard? AJ Hoggard had him in hell for 40 minutes. So I don't want to hear it on Kolek. I don't know how you, after this game, can still call that guy one of the best players in the country. He got absolutely dogged by Michigan State's backcourt.
I did not refer to him as that. I am speaking on the words of others. I told you about Tyler Kolek. Okay. We had talked about this extensively. If someone got a hold of my phone and went to me and Greg's text conversations and typed in the word Kolek in the search bar, you're going to see some things. Just let that be known. So we kind of knew what this was coming to this game. But like I said, one of the hotter teams in the country, one of the hotter coaching. I mean, I'm not sure if it's come out yet, but Shaka Smart's definitely top 5 in Coach of the Year consideration. He is. But
like, this is why we said we love the draw. Like, we don't need to gas up Marquette like they were this odd championship team. Like, yes, they won the Big East. They won the Big East tournament. They were clicking at the right time. All that's true. It's still Shaka Smart, and it's still Tyler Kolek. There's a reason that we circled this game and said we think Michigan State has a great chance to win this game. And ultimately we were right. Like, and this comes back to the point from pre-tournament, Car. I tweeted out, you tweeted out, we texted on the side about it. And I don't say this to minimize what Michigan State's doing, but draw is the most important thing in the NCAA tournament. You will never be able to convince me of anything else. There are teams that are much better basketball teams than Michigan State that are sitting on their couch right now. There are teams that are worse than Michigan State that have advanced to the Sweet 16 this year. This is what happens. It reminds me the last time Michigan went to a national championship, they were not one of the 20 best teams in the country, but they had an awesome draw with a little bit of luck that broke their way where they didn't have to play the best teams in their region. Michigan State's first 2 rounds was an awesome draw. Now they're going to get a Kansas State team. I'm sure we'll preview that in a little bit. You and I both like Kansas State. I don't know if we think that's good or bad. But the 1 seeds out of this region, like, it's potentially you're going to have to play a first-year head coach in the Sweet 16. And if you get through that, Rick Barnes is the only guy preventing you from a Final Four. Shaka Smart, first-year head coach Rick Barnes. That's an awesome NCAA tournament draw for someone as prestigious and successful as Tom Izzo. So I want to reiterate that point, because draw is what makes March runs. That's not to take anything away from Michigan State. But Michigan State's also shooting like 17% from 3-point range this tournament, and they're in the Sweet 16. I don't think that's going to continue, but draw matters, and that's why we were so excited for Michigan State a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're at this point with how we're shooting from three is crazy, especially yesterday in the game against Marquette. So I guess we can kind of dive into that now as we propped up the accolades that they have had throughout the years, not the ones that I have given to them, the ones that have been bestowed upon them by others in the space. Just let that be known. So we come into this game, like I said, pre-tournament, out of all the 2 seeds in the tournament, Marquette was the one that I feared the least amount. And that's not, actually, take it as it is. It might be disrespect to Marquette, but at the same time, the way they match up with this Michigan State team, Tyler Kolek is more of a crafty point guard, not one that's going to like out talent us. Like we're not going up against a lottery pick at the point guard position or something like that that can just go nuclear on us. Cam Jones is a good player, good scorer. The basketball extremely streaky, but can fill it up in a hurry with once he gets one going in. It's definitely a guy that can, have that 0 first half scoring and then come back and drop 17 on you like he did against Vermont. Like it's nothing. And then the front court guys, a lot of basically not dominant post players, but post players that have length, not necessarily crazy tall, but they play extremely hard. They're able to knock down shots and they're able to do other things like rebounding and passing the ball. They do extremely well. It wasn't like a dominant post force that's just going to be able to throw it into them and be able to score on us. So coming into the game, I really liked the matchup. And then as we started off the game, we came out hot. And I loved everything about what our game plan was. We got after Kolek, got up into him. He was uncomfortable. He had some early foul trouble. And we were just getting into everybody. Defense. I mean, Marquette looked all out of sorts. We were able to get some pretty easy shots, not necessarily knocking down 3-point shots, but we were able to get some shots at the rim. Guys going off the dribble. Joey Hauser, I think, did a great job of utilizing the pump fake and actually going to the rim in this game and kind of shooting that little mid-range floater. What did you think about the way Michigan State kind of came out in the first part of this game?
Yeah, jumped all over him, punched him in the face. And I like, what's Marquette going to do? Give Marquette credit actually in the second half, because I do think probably the best thing I can say about this Marquette team, or maybe the staple of who they are and why they were successful this year, is I do think they're a very tough basketball team. I think a lot of teams, with the way Michigan State came out and jumped on them physically, I think would have totally wilted and let the game snowball. I don't think Marquette did that. They kind of hung around in the first half. Second half, they had a flurry of made shots, stormed back to take the lead immediately with that run right out of halftime. And, then it was a game from there. It was anybody's game. Michigan State won. But I do think Michigan State's start to the game was critical, because I think if it was just sort of like a tie game, I mean, Marquette's run was sort of the run to me in this game, right? Like you knew Marquette at some point was going to have like a 10-0 burst like that. They've kind of proven themselves as a team that does that at least once per game. So the fact that Marquette's run came to tie the game, or to take a 2-point lead instead of to create separation and make it a 10-point lead or a 12-point lead, I think was massively important to Michigan State's chances here. And there's a couple guys, Carr, I think deserve some very specific individual credit call outs here. The first is Izzo. And I'll praise Izzo however many ways you want me to over the next week while we keep talking about this. He's been flawless. He's been absolutely flawless really the whole season, in my opinion. Ever since the roster was set, I have not had an issue with anything Tom Izzo's done this year. But in this one, man, like he put Jackson Kohler in for a minute. It was very clear, abundantly clear, this is not a game for Jackson Kohler. He went back to the bench. Trey Holloman had his 5 minutes early. He didn't play in the second half, as far as I remember. So, like, I think Izzo's pulling the right strings. I thought he went to Mady Sissoko. I thought that was the right move in this game. 21 minutes, 8 points, 10 rebounds. Mady, for all the crap we've given him and how we still feel about Mady Sissoko, I don't think anything's going to change that. He's giving good minutes right now, and he has proven at some of the brightest times this season, going back to the Champions Classic, he's capable of giving good minutes. I still wish it was in a backup type role, but if he's your best center right now, let him rock. And he is their best center right now. And Carson Cooper's the other guy who, he's got 5 fouls. He get 4 of them against Marquette, 2 points, 2 rebounds. I don't think he looks physically overwhelmed out there. You and I have talked about Malik Hall. It's just not himself. At this point, I'm not expecting Malik Hall to ever get back to himself, at least this season. I don't know if it's a confidence issue or what. He started 0 for 4 from 3 in this game, and then he passed up a wide open 3 to dribble into a turnover. He just doesn't look like the guy he has been for the majority of his career. And if that's the case, you can't go to small ball. And I thought for the most part, Izzo, knew that and correctly identified that 37 minutes with a big in this game. And I thought that was the right move. So credit to Izzo, credit to Madi for stepping up and playing the way he did. Credit to Cooper for being ready for the big minutes. But the guy in this game, or really the guys to me, were the two guys that have carried this team all year, Joey Hauser and Tyson Walker. Tyson Walker, 23 points on 17 shots and having his little Travis Trice moment down the stretch of this game where he just takes it over. We've been waiting for that. We've said he's capable this season, ever since we saw him start the season the way he did, where, this is a totally different guy in terms of confidence, in terms of aggressiveness, in terms of shot hunting. We've thought he was capable of this, and it was awesome to see it happen. And now he gets to go back to Madison Square Garden as a New York City kid in the Sweet 16 against Mr. New York City himself, Marquise Noel. You can't write up a better storyline, man. It's going to be really, really fun. I'm just happy for Tyson.
Yeah, and I think you really, if you want to put it kind of apples to apples, like last year, we're in that game with Duke, right? We find ourselves in that game. It's about 3 to 4 minutes left. I think we actually had maybe a 1 point or 2 point lead at one point. I can't call it. And credit to a guy like Jeremy Roach coming down the stretch there, and guys like Paolo took over, exerted their will, did what they had to do. We found ourselves in a game with Marquette right now with about 3 to 4 minutes left, and things weren't going well, I'll say, offensively. I would like to say credit to Michigan State for, even though the shots weren't falling, I think they were still shooting them. I think they were thinking about it maybe just a little bit too much. There was a couple of shots, particularly by Jay Nakins, where I think he found himself so open and kind of was thinking about the last one that he missed. It just looked like he was, like pushing it a little bit, or just thinking the ball into the hole. But even though those shots weren't falling, we were able to get stops on the other end, force turnovers, whether that be us getting up in Marquette, or honestly Marquette making some own mistakes that were maybe not very particular of a Marquette team. But Tyson Walker just said, you know what? It's 3 to 4 minutes left. This team needs me. Like, let me cook. And he hit some tough shots. Those lefty layups going away from the hoop over the big man were some great shots, the pull-up shots. And then he caps it off with the steal and his first in-game career dunk to basically hit him with the night-night, makes free throws down the stretch. I mean, just absolutely just phenomenal game by him down the stretch. And that comes at the point where he was like 2 for 10, 3 for 10 or something like that. And the Tyson of last year probably wouldn't even got up 10 shots in the first place. But the Tyson of last year definitely isn't shooting anymore, even though he's at 2 for 10. But he's just at a different place mentally this year, and it changes the dynamic of this team.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's fun to watch too. That's the other thing. I think, if you want to look back and sort of summarize the first weekend for Michigan State, one of the most important things, I think, to me is that in both games, I felt Michigan State had the best player on the floor. Joey Hauser was the best player in the USC game. Tyson Walker was the best player in the Marquette game. And I don't know how many times in the last 3 seasons you've been able to say that about Michigan State. Like, maybe guys would pop up here and there, but more often than not, it was a sum of their parts type effort from a Michigan State team in wins. And this team still does that a lot. Like, this team still has like team games, but I think in March, it really matters when you're in a close game, like who's the guy who can just take over. And I think Michigan State right now has 3 of them that can do that. I'll put AJ in that category. We haven't had the AJ Hoggard game yet where he's spectacular, but I actually do want to give AJ credit in this game, in the Marquette game, Cart, because what have I said all year? What have I said the most important thing for Michigan State to do as a team has been since the start of this season?
Find the middle.
Find the middle. And the most indicative moment, performance, whatever you want to call, the first time I have felt all season long there's been a player or this team in general finding the middle is AJ Hoggard in the Marquette game. AJ Hoggard's entire season has been either boom or bust. He's either been awesome, he's dominating the game, or he's a total disaster, train wreck. You can't play him, turnovers, bad body language, everything. And that was my fear, is we're going to have this happen in the NCAA tournament. This game, Cart, he picked up a couple fouls in the first half. Izzo went to the auto bench. Marquette, Shaka brings Tyler Kolek back in, and Marquette kind of made the run with AJ off the floor. In my head, I'm thinking AJ, he's probably in a bad spot mentally. He's going to let this snowball. Not at all. AJ Hoggard finishes the game with 13 points, 4 assists. He did have 5 turnovers. I don't think this was the best AJ Hoggard game, but the most important thing was he found the middle. He didn't allow himself to be a train wreck, given all the things that were going on, the foul trouble, the turnovers, the grind of this game. He was just solid, and he didn't have to be the face of it. He let Tyson Walker go eat. And if that's what you get from AJ Hoggard, if you get AJ Hoggard as a Robin to Tyson Walker's Batman, where Hoggard's just solid and he's fine in the middle, he's operating in the middle, man, the ceiling for this team goes way, way, way up, man. So for the one guy to be the guy who gets us there to the middle for me, being Hoggard, that's a special moment after how much I've criticized him and really doubted him, right? I said I didn't think he was capable of just being solid in the NCAA tournament, and he did that yesterday.
And going back to the Big Ten tournament game, basically AJ coming off probably one of the worst body language moments in Michigan State history as of recently, not just even AJ Hoggard, just as a whole. I can't think of a moment that kind of transpired like the one between Tom and him against Ohio State, the Big Ten tournament. So the fact that he was able to, I guess, not let that snowball, because if you had to pick a player on Michigan State that would let that type of thing snowball, I mean, AJ Hoggard would be a prime candidate for that. So,
well, and he walks out first play of the game, gets the ball ripped from him for layup. Like, he had 100 chances to let this snowball in this game, and he never did. And that's a credit to him.
Yep, big credit to him. But and just I think that also just looking at a big picture before we actually move on to the Sweet 16, this was one that if you look at it in retrospect, like let's say we lose this game to Marquette, it'd be one as a Michigan State fan that would be hard to swallow, not just because we lost to Marquette, but because everything else is falling into place around us. Like you said already, Greg, like the draw is good for us. We could find ourselves in a tournament. All the Blue Bloods are gone. Like I know the Blue Bloods haven't had that great of a year, but all the Blue Bloods are like out of there. The Kentuckys are out of there. The 1 seed in our region lost. I mean, I think Memphis is a better team than Florida Atlantic, to be honest. If you want to go back to that game, like Memphis would be a tough matchup for Michigan State. There's a lot of things falling into place around us. We can run into a Tennessee team that has been good, yes, but at the same time, they don't have their point guard, Zakai Ziegler, and I still think they're a different team when they don't have him. So, it would have been one where I was kicking myself and being like, we let an opportunity slip if we weren't able to get to the Sweet 16, but once again, that's all speculation because we're there.
Yeah.
And it feels good. And it feels good. Damn
underrated element is stepping back and remembering you're there.
Man, needed it.
That's a good feeling. And last thing on the team, sort of looking back before we look forward. I'm just going to sort of call my shot here. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. This tournament is not going to end for Michigan State until they have an absolutely nuclear shooting game. And I guess that kind of that fights itself. What I'm saying fights itself, because I'm not saying it's going to end when they get hot. I'm saying the opposite. Like I don't think Michigan State's going home without ever having a hot game first. So I tweeted this out with 4 minutes left in the game when it was a 1-possession game card. If Michigan State found a way to make a Sweet 16, given how poorly they shot the ball, pray for Kansas State. And I don't mean to jinx anything there, but like this team is way too good of a shooting team to just shoot as poorly as they have. And the fact that they're still playing while doing that is very, I don't want to say lucky, but there is an element of luck there. Like they earned those victories. But if you would have told me pregame, like Michigan State shoots 2 for 16, I'm like, oh yeah, they're bounced. No chance. So give them credit for doing everything else good enough, out toughing them, out physicaling them, being solid, winning other battles within the game. But I just think there's going to be a game soon. I think it'll probably be the Kansas State game. I think Michigan State's going to torch the Nets. Like we've seen this team have 12 for 20 3-point shooting nights. And it's really hard to beat them. It's really hard to beat Michigan State when they shoot that well. They haven't even come close to their ceiling on it. And like I said, they're just too good. They're too good to not have a really hot shooting night. Do you agree with that? Like, do you think that's coming?
Oh, no, 100%. I definitely think it's coming. And I guess if I had to pick when it would come, I'd rather us be in the Sweet 16 and it comes then. But let's kind of dive into that now, because this Kansas State team, one, just to let everybody know out there, I speak for myself and Gregory on this one. We have loved this Kansas State team all year.
It's our favorite team. It's
our favorite team, like, in the country. Like, and we're not just saying that. Like, throughout the whole year, we have sang the praises of this Kansas State team, their pieces, like sneaky Final Four team pick. Like, that has been, the narratives that we've carried about this Kansas State team throughout the whole year. And Greg already brought it up. Like, this matchup is fun in general, just because it's Kansas State, Michigan State, Noel, Walker. I mean, Izzo, Tang. Like, Tang, the first-year coach. Everyone loves Tang right now. Everyone's seen the videos of him in the locker room dancing a little baby. Like, they're the hot thing right now. They got the light purple warm-ups and gear, which is absolutely fire. Like, what do you think about this matchup initially for Michigan State?
There's a lot to go into this answer. I love Kansas State. Let me go on record with that first. I think you and I both picked them to go to the Final Four. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
We both have Kansas State in our Final Four. We both had Michigan State playing Kansas State in the Sweet 16. So do the math on what our pre-tournament prediction was there. I love the way they're playing. Like, if you can look at that Kentucky game, I mean, it was a quote unquote bad matchup for Kansas State, in the fact that Kansas State doesn't really have dominant bigs. They play Naquan Tomlin at center much of the game. He's a 6'10", in my opinion, more of a forward, more of a stretch forward.
Stretch forward,
perimeter, right? So, to me, like, you saw Shibwe had 20 rebounds, and Shibwe will do that against anybody, but he could add 40 rebounds in this Kansas State game because they had no answer for him. The problem for Michigan State, or maybe if you want to flip it, the problem for Kansas State is, like, that's neither one of the teams exploits the other team's weakness in the front court. So it's going to be a fun matchup to watch, because it really does come down to the guards. Like, who's going to win? Is it Marquise Noel? Is it AJ Hogard and Tyson Walker? I think Michigan State can do some things to get Noel off his game. And I should be careful speaking this, because anyone who watched the Kentucky game knows how good Noel can be when he's clicking. I mean, shades of Trey Burke in the run down the stretch there. Step back jumpers.
I don't want to cut you off. I just want to throw this in there real quick, G. But we've also seen, like, Noel's a player when he's hot. Like, he's amazing. But we have watched many, many of Kansas State games this year. There has been games where he has killed them.
He has put up stinkers. That's very fair. That's probably the biggest reason why he's not like a runaway first team All-American. Because I think when Noel's playing his best, he's the best guard in the country, and he's hitting step back shots. He's throwing no look passes. He's getting wherever he wants in the court. He's an unstoppable offensive player when he's clicking like that. I mean, the moment could be a little too big for someone. I don't know who it'll be. I don't have somebody in my mind, but I'm just like, the concept of the moment of, like, two New York City guards taking on each other in Madison Square Garden is going to be really fun to watch. But, like, I do think there's a world where Michigan State gets Noel off his game and it kind of spirals here. The biggest problem matchup for me, Cart, and I'm wondering if you agree with this or not. I have no idea who Michigan State can put on Keontae Johnson. I don't think there is an answer. Like, I think if you were lining up pre-tournament saying really two things Michigan State wouldn't have an answer for, the first one would be a dominant center. And part of the love of this draw is they're not going to see a dominant center at this point. Now that Purdue's gone, they're not going to see a dominant center until they get to the Final Four. But the second one is a dominant wing with some size. And, like, the Michigan State's 3-guard look is really awesome until you see a 6'6", 230-pound wing that can score at all three levels the way Keontae Johnson does. I think you gotta, like, this would be such a Malik Hall game if you had confidence in Malik Hall right now. I don't think Joey Hauser can guard Keontae at all, and I don't think Jaden Akins can guard Keontae at all. So I don't know what you do.
Yeah, that's you really took the words right out of my mouth. This would be a perfect Malik Hall like matchup, but unfortunately, the way Malik is playing offensively, like it's killing us way too much. It's hurting us to have him out there. And I hate to say it, but it is what it is. As of right now, it's hurting us to have him out there. Maybe it's a situation where Izzo's like, we'll substitute the offense as long as he can do something defensively with Keontae Johnson. But that's definitely the matchup that kind of scares me the most. The only thing is that once again, Keontae Johnson is a player that can go nuclear, can do some things. Like when he was playing at his best, like he's a first team All-American candidate in my eyes. Like, and he had those moments this year. I mean, he's a guy who averaged, I mean, he fell off a little bit towards the end of the year, but I mean, he's averaging 18 and 7. And he's able to shoot the ball. He's able to get to the rim. I mean, he's built like a damn tight end too. So he's able to do like all these things and overpower people. So if you put a guy like Jaden Akins on him, I could see Keontae Johnson giving him a long day because I just don't think he has the length. He'll get to the rim. So I don't know. That's definitely going to be one I'm interested in seeing.
You think they could put AJ on him? Because you don't want. Yeah. I don't think you want AJ chasing Noel anyway. I think you're putting either Akins or Tyson on Noel and saying make his life hell. And then like what do you do with AJ? You could put him on Sills, who is an athlete and a shooter, but well, I guess I shouldn't say shooter. He's 21% from 3, but he takes shots.
And he does knock him. Like if you told me I would consider Desi Sills a guy who like just knocks down some threes, like 21. I didn't know he was 20%. That's crazy.
Yeah, you watch him and it seems like he's a better shooter than he actually is. He's good from the line. That's part of why I thought he was a shooter. But no, I just like I think you could maybe see AJ on Keontae a little when Michigan State wants to go small. I think that's an okay matchup, but AJ needs to be mentally locked in for that challenge, obviously. But then, yeah, I think it almost has to be Malik Hall. I think if you put Joey Hauser on Keontae, that's asking for trouble. And the truth is, I mean, Kansas State plays Keontae at the 4 a lot. So that could dictate Michigan State playing small ball in this game or maybe needing to play Joey Hauser off the floor. But I don't think you want Joey off the floor. So I don't know.
Are we scared to put Joey on Keontae?
I don't think he can guard him at all. I think he's way too quick.
Yeah. And for as improved as Joey has been defensively, he's still not that guy defensively, but he has been better than he has been in past years. But it's definitely going to be an interesting matchup. Another thing that interests me is that this Michigan State team loves to play slow, like real. They love to slow things down. They love to play in the half court. This Kansas State team does not like to do that. This Kansas State team is a team that averages close to 15 turnovers a game, and like they're okay with that. Like they want to play fast, they want to play up and down, they want to maybe try to make the hard pass, they want to try to do all these things, and they're basically banking on themselves to make enough plays, to play hard enough to overcome the fact that they're turning the ball over a lot. But that works if they have a lot of possessions. If we're able to cut down the possessions and play in the half court, it's a place where I can really see us kind of taking an advantage, especially because it's like that saying that like the 2 points from a certain player or 2 points in a certain faction kind of hits different when it's a certain type of play. Like sometimes the things that Noel and Tomlin and Keontae Johnson do, they're not just 2 points. They're like showtime. They're throwing no-look oops. They're throwing backdoor passes. They're hitting tough trays. Like they hit a little differently. And the fact that, you know, I'm so scared of Marquise Noel. I will say that. I'm just letting that be known right now. You're telling me that the guy who thrives off like being that guy, the guy who's his Twitter handle is Mr. New York City
with 2 Y's.
With 2 Y's. His header is underestimating me, never worked out well. His pinned tweet is height over heart or heart over height. Like this guy is a menace. He scares me.
And we love Noel, man. But I have 2 things though. 2 things. One, like you said, he can implode, and he was so good last game. You'd think it'd come down to earth possible. 2, and this is important. This is me talking to you. This is Greg Waddell talking to his friend Carter Elliott right here. Thing about Marquise Noel, Cart.
Hey, he's small.
I mean, that's that you don't like guards that are. I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but you can do something with that.
I'm gonna be sick when Doug McDaniel turns into Marquise Noel by his junior year.
I actually know.
No, oh my God.
Hear me out. That's the comp though. Like I've been throwing around Tyler Ulis. Like the comp is Noel step back jumpers. Like that's what Doug's good at. It's crazy.
Yeah, but Noel's always been a good shooter, but that's something else we can.
Noel's actually been pretty awful his whole career until this year, though.
Really?
Yeah. So I was looking this up. Like, where did Noel come from? Like, he started at
Arkansas, Little Rock.
He started at Little Rock and was like he had a couple okay shooting years. He's never shot 40% from three. As a junior at Little Rock, he shot 32% from three at Arkansas Little Rock. And then up transfers to Kansas State last year, shoots 30% from three. Was not at all like a dude. And then all of a sudden this year, he's one of the 3 best point guards in the country. Like, it kind of came out of nowhere. I guess that sort of happens when you're 23 years old and in this era of college basketball.
And add some talent around him. That Kansas State team was bad last year.
I had Nigel Pack last year. Like,
they did have Nigel.
That's the thing that's forgotten. It's like, Nigel Pack's in the Sweet 16 too, but imagine if this team had Noel Johnson and Pack. Crazy.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Crazy.
Desi Sills kind of fits in like a glue guy, but you could also bring him in off the bench. Big glue guy.
Yeah. Also, how afraid of Tang are we? Because obviously there's the little baby stuff. The vibes are high. Like you said, the purple jumpsuits are big. The thing that jumps out to me about Tang, Cart, you see the interview with him after the game?
Hey, he's a shit talk. I love Tang.
Well, he's a shit talker and he's right. So for anyone that doesn't know, Kentucky loses to Kansas State and they ask him like, hey, what was it about this matchup? Like, you played such a prestigious program in Kentucky and, you're Kansas State. Like, what gave you success? And he goes, well, first of all, we're a prestigious program too. We've had some success in this tournament. Kentucky, I mean, those dudes that were there in a decade ago, they're not suiting up anymore. Last I checked. End of the day, it comes down to dudes, and we had more dudes than they had. Like, one, shit. Two, he's right, Cart. There's not going to be a game. There will not be a game this tournament that Kansas State plays in that they have less dudes than their opponent, period. Because they have 2 All-Americans. No other team in the country has 2 All-Americans. And the fact that their coach knows that, and it's just like, ain't coaching, ain't shit. Run the baby, like
run throwing that baby.
Run the baby. Put the purple jumpsuits on, and we got dudes. That's terrifying to me.
It's extremely terrifying to me, and there's nothing really else I can say about it. Like, we already talked about how we felt about this Kansas State team. With that said, though, I still think that it's once again not, besides the Keontae Johnson matchup, and that obviously I don't want to minimize that. That's a huge matchup for us. I still think that the way this team is going, the fact that we can have a good shooting display, the fact that Tom Izzo's in his absolute March duffel right now, like has been all year, but he's in his bag right now. That's a scary guy. And I love Jerome Tang. I think he has a great pedigree being on that staff with Scott Drew. But it's a different beast when you got to look across that sideline. You look at Tom Izzo in his eyes, and he's rolling. To be honest, like,
you putting Izzo in a different category than Cal at this stage, because Tang just did that to Cal.
At this stage, I am, to be honest. Yeah, so
I think that's fair.
Yeah, in the way this year has gone, I'm not saying he's just gonna absolutely coach circles around him. Izzo coaches circles around Tang, but I don't know. My dog Izzo is coming through at the Grim Reaper. Everyone said Shaka Smart was coach of the year. He's out of there. A lot of people are saying Jerome Tang is going to be the coach of the year. He might be packed up as well.
So Tang, I think you're right. Like, Michigan State should be favored to win this coaching matchup. It's probably why Michigan State is the favorite on the betting line in this game. We need to talk about that too.
I saw that one.
Yeah, Michigan State is favored by a point right now, -130 on the money line. And the Marquette line was trappy. I said this to you privately and publicly. I was staying away, quote unquote, for my daily picks for respect for my Spartan brethren. I fired at Michigan State money line pregame. So whatever people thought there was a Michigan State curse with me, no, I hit for Michigan State money line both the first 2 games of this tournament. The Marquette line to me last game felt like Vegas was trying to get people to bet Marquette. Feels like they're doing that with Kansas State again right now.
It feels no. I'm scared that we're. I think they're trying to. I'm scared that we're 1. I thought that Kansas State would be favored.
That's what I'm saying.
But
So since Michigan State's favored, that means Vegas is trying to get people to bet on Kansas State because people are like, oh, Kansas State should be favored. So usually whatever Vegas is trying to get you to do, better thing to do is do the opposite. I don't know, man. It's interesting because, yeah, I would have expected Kansas State to be favored by 2 or 3 points in this game. But back to Tang, though. I think Tang is really good. I think he should be coach of the year. I think the one thing that scares me a little, even though he's a first-year coach, is just like, what if Tang's the one? What if he's special? Like, we know Shaka Smart and Rick Barnes are who they are, regardless of whatever their teams do this year. They are notorious chokers. Jerome Tang, we have no idea if he's the next Coach K or if he's the next Shaka Smart. Like, we just don't know. That said, Tang strikes me big time from all the Kansas State games I've watched this year and all his interviews as a big, just roll the ball out there and get it in my players' hands guy. And
I love that.
I love that too. But I think like a first-year coach who's like, oh, just give them the ball versus Tom Izzo in his bag in March right now feels like a advantage Izzo.
Yeah, and I will say this, and I'm speaking on a place of this where I can promise y'all I have watched so much Kansas State basketball this year. It's sickening. I don't think I missed a game, to be honest.
Oh, we never do. We love them. Like we love them.
They were great. They were amazing at the start of the year when you could bet on them, and they were like 7-point underdogs. Like at Kent, like it's always been great to be and watch Kansas State basketball. With that said, I don't know if I can point to a game this year where Tang has gone outside of that, just roll it out there and see what happens. Like if he rolls it out there, sees what happens, and the other team's beating them, they're just like, all right, well, they got it today. That team's better than us. Maybe I'll keep rolling it out there and hopefully Noel and Keontae Johnson take over, which they can do. But I don't know if necessarily if they get their backs against the wall and maybe some adjustments need to be made, if Tang has that in his bag. He might. I just haven't seen it yet.
I will say, if you look at Kansas State's losses this year, most of them were by large deficits. Like they lost by 12 to Butler. They lost by 14 to TCU, 13 to TCU in the Big 12 tournament, 14 at Oklahoma, 12 against Kansas. Like they have a couple close ones mixed in, but overwhelmingly, like they lost in blowouts this year or comfortable losses. So I think that speaks to what you're saying. If Michigan State can get a lead early, make Tang play from behind, maybe Noel starts scrambling a little bit. Keontae Johnson tries to play some hero ball. That's what's dangerous about him and why we love him. Is like they got two guys who can win playing hero ball. But you saw that in the Kentucky game, right? Like they were down 4 with 4 minutes left, and they won that game because guys played hero ball. So you gotta create separation before, if it's a tie game with 3 minutes left. As much as I love Tyson Walker, as much as I love Tom Izzo right now, advantage Noel and advantage Johnson if it's a 0-0 ball game with 3 minutes left to go.
Yeah. Also credit to John Martin as much as anything for saying that Kansas State would continually lose down 3.
That was huge.
That was huge for my Kansas State money line ticket.
Huge.
Just let it be.
Just not even lose. He kept saying, "Oh, they're cooked. This one's over. Like, wouldn't take them plus 12.5 right now." Like, that's a 3-point game. Come on.
Oh man, love JM, but I had to mention that. All right, so I want to end this episode with, predictions, unless you got, I know you hate when I just end it and you got more cooking in the pressure cooker. Do you got anything else you want to get out there?
I'm trying to think if there's anything else I haven't said. I feel like I've gotten to most of my things. We talked about the middle. I think I gave credit to Izzo. I gave credit to Hogard, to Walker, to everybody here. I said the shooting's going to come. Like, I don't know, man. I think, I guess the last thing sentimentally I would say before we wrap up is just I'm genuinely happy for you and for the fan base at large for a lot of reasons right now. One, I think it is actually good for the sport. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's good for the sport to see Izzo remain at the top of the sport, because this year, if anything, Cart, this year with how much quote unquote parity there is, you and I have just referred to it as a cooked product. We think the sport as a whole is down in a massive way. Big Ten wise, outside of the Big Ten doesn't matter. And I think the NCAA tournament results have kind of proven that so far. It's good. I think the sport needs somebody like Tom Izzo right now more than ever, because we've lost so many coaches from his era. And quite frankly, the coaches that are stepping up aren't ready yet. Like, I don't feel like there is anybody who's taken the mantle of like, who's the next guy that's the face of the sport right now. We thought it might be Scott Drew for a while. We thought it might be Tony Bennett for a while. Like right now it's wide open. The sport needs a face. The sport needs a heartbeat. And Tom Izzo has an opportunity to do that this year. And that's pretty cool to me as one of the biggest Tom Izzo critiques or criticizers out there. I think it's coming at a much needed time. It's coming at a much needed time for the community. Obviously, we don't need to get into that, but Izzo said word for word, like the number one thing he can do to wrap his arms around the Spartan community is win. He's doing that, and it's powerful, very powerful. And yeah, I like, as much as I quote unquote hate Michigan State basketball, pray on your downfall, whatever you want to call it. This team is fun. This team is fun to watch in a lot of ways. Like you surround the guard play with the shooting that they have. It's one of my more fun favorite teams to watch from Michigan State in a while. So I'm happy for the fan base. I'm happy for Izzo. Y'all deserve this. And I think the sky's the limit, man. Now, I will say, if you get to Alabama, we're going to do predictions here. If you get Alabama in the Final Four, I'm taking Alabama alternate line minus 19.5. But until then, I think the sky's the limit.
Let's focus on what's ahead of us. But thank you for those kind words, Gregory. And it does feel great just to let that be known. As much as I don't want to sound like a homer, I'm going to sound like one. I think that we win this basketball game. I truly do. I think we slow it down enough. I think we're able to take advantage of turnovers enough. It's going to be interesting to see how we try to expose this Kansas State defense, because they have length outside of Noel. Like Tomlin is 6'10" with a 7'2" wingspan. Might be tough for like guys like Joey to get their shot off. So I think a lot of it's going to be dependent on really good sets. I expect to see a lot of down screen aways for Joey Hauser. A lot of Joey Hauser not passing up open shots in the corner and hopefully hitting them. But I think sets and getting good shots is going to be particularly important. One thing that also makes me feel good about that is that whoever Noel is guarding kind of at the end of the shot clock, if we need to get a shot off, I think we'll be able to go at him and get a shot over him, no matter who it is. Hopefully it's Tyson Walker, but I think that'll kind of be able to unfold. But I think we'll be able to do enough. I think we'll be able to stymie Noel enough, do enough with Keontae Johnson to win this basketball game. And Jerome Tang might be the one, but he's going to have to find out he's the one against others.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't want to swing too hard here, because I almost feel like we could be putting some bad mojo on Michigan State by both just like adopting them and saying, oh, they got this.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, my bracket pick is Kansas State. My Final Four pick is Kansas State. I have a futures bet that is still outstanding in DraftKings that has Alabama, UConn, Texas, and Michigan State in the Final Four, $25 to win $22,000. That's still alive.
God.
That's still a live part. And all four of those teams are favorites this week.
My word.
My pick is Michigan State in this game, and the largest reason why is that I cannot envision Michigan State's run ending without a game where they shoot 60% from three first. And I would have thought that was going to happen against Marquette. It didn't. Until it happens, I am going to bet on it happening again. This team's too good of shooting to go away quietly. So I think Michigan State shoots the lights out, maybe a big Malik Hall game, maybe a silence the critics game. Definitely a game where I could see Akins and Hauser just going like 4 for 5 from three each, and jump on Kansas State early, man. They are a team that will fold. Spartans. Rick Barnes potentially for a shot at the Final Four.
Love it. Can't wait to see it. That'll do it for another episode of Unscripted. We'll be back to talk about like Final Four preview stuff after this weekend, seeing like where Michigan State's gonna go and who we're gonna play. But
final word. I'm sorry. I did have one other thing. I forgot it until now. Final thing. From a Michigan fan, thank you, Michigan State. Thank you to the fans. Thank you to the team. Thank you to the players. Thank you to Tom Izzo. Thank you, because what you are doing right now is reminding everyone that the Big Ten runs through the state of Michigan.
Thank you.
How long are we going to have to carry this godforsaken conference on our shoulders? I'm looking at you, Purdue. I'm looking at you, Indiana. I'm looking at you, Illinois. I'm looking at you, Iowa. I don't care how many first-team All-Americans, National Player of the Year candidates, whatever the hell you want to say you have in your jerseys. You're frauds. You're terrified of the moment. When the bright lights come on, you wither and die before the round of 32 every single year that I've been alive since I've been in high school. But the state of Michigan, whether it's John Beilein, whether it's Tom Izzo, whether it's Juwan Howard, whether it's Tom Izzo again, have to drag our asses to try and fight people off from saying the Big Ten's the worst high major conference in this godforsaken sport. And I would tell y'all to step it up, but y'all won't even step it up. So it's on Izzo this year. Maybe next year it's on Izzo again, or maybe Juwan Howard decides nepotism sucks. I don't know. But shout out to Michigan State, because I'm sick of this nonsense. And without Michigan State this year, it would be a bad spot right now.
Wow. I'm really glad you didn't hold that in. That was a bar that was needed.
Thank you.
It was also came at a surprising time when I literally just made it the notion that we'll be talking Final Four preview for Michigan State. You just let it slide by like it was nothing.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. It was more.
What am I going to do? Doubt you that you're not going to get through a first-year head coach in Rick Barnes?
I mean, it was more so of a joke. We'll see how it goes. But
I mean, Florida Atlantic in the Elite Eight. That's terrifying.
Hey, Dusty May. I like Florida.
Dusty May.
I like Florida Atlantic's team a lot. I'm just saying that.
What a horrible matchup, Dusty May in the Elite Eight.
Dusty scares me. But all right, for another episode of Unscripted, I'm Carter Elliott. For my co-host Greg Waddell, be sure to like, comment, stick along, come along for the ride as the Unscripted continues to ride, because there's a lot of Field of 68 team podcasts that are doing season wrap-ups today. Couldn't be my team. Sick 'em Baylor, champagne on ice, and have fun wrapping it up, boys. We're out.